I'm Joe. Welcome to a special episode of Next Level Bullshit. Today is the 13th anniversary of the attacks on 9/11, an event that has given birth to thousands of conspiracies, mostly from speculation on the internet, and almost none of which have been looked into by the mainstream media. So we contacted a respected broadcast journalist to get his take on that, George Knapp of KLAS-TV in Las Vegas. For those not aware, George is perhaps one of the most acclaimed broadcast investigative journalists who touches on conspiracy topics from time to time. In 1989, his investigative reports on Nevada's infamous Area 51 was selected by United Press International as the best individual achievement by a reporter. He exposed corruption and cover-ups in the Federal Bureau of Land Management. He spent weeks in the former Soviet Union during the time of perestroika, investigating UFO sightings by the Soviet military. A recipient of the coveted Edward R. Murrow Award for Investigative Reporting, two-time Peabody Award winner, 22-time Emmy Award winner, and the Sunday host of radio show Coast to Coast AM, George doesn't shy away from provocative topics. Our interview with George was recorded earlier today. Let's roll the footage. George, thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Today is the 13th anniversary of 9/11. Do you recall where you were when you first learned of what happened in New York City?
Oh, yeah, of course. I was at home getting ready to come to work. I had the TV news on in the background, but wasn't paying much attention to it. And somebody from work, a colleague, called me and said, "You better sit down and turn the TV on." And so I sat down and started watching. And like the rest of the nation, I saw this news come pouring in and realized, I think, pretty much immediately that it changed everything.
Wow. And what were your initial thoughts when this all occurred?
I remember thinking of, first of all, somebody obviously was trying to get our attention with this outrageous act, this attack on the United States. And I remember thinking, you better be careful what you wish for, because it was obvious something as brazen as this, something as terrible as this, we couldn't let it go. We would hunt them down no matter how long it took. The second thought I had was about our civil liberties. And I'm not kidding about this, is that I thought, this is going to change everything, because I know how Americans are. We tend to overreact to some things, especially something as big as this. And I was concerned that the reaction might lead to crackdowns here at home. We can talk about that further, but it's exactly, I think, what happened.
Yeah. Well, not long after the attacks, in fact, in some cases, on the very day of the attacks, there was rumblings of 9/11 conspiracy theories that started appearing online. But we never seen any mainstream investigative journalists cover anything that could be a 9/11 conspiracy. Why not, do you think?
Well, I disagree with the premise, Joe. I think we did, investigative journalists, every major news organization in the world did cover the conspiracy angle. Mohammed Atta and his colleagues, his contemporaries, were involved in a conspiracy. This is something that Osama bin Laden planned. That is a conspiracy. That is the central conspiracy, and it was investigated both by the government and by civilian news organizations. If you're asking me why we haven't covered other kinds of conspiracy theories, the kinds of things that now are so prominent online on the internet, I think those have been looked at and have been largely discredited. The fact that they haven't appeared in some giant 60 minutes expose, I think, is a result of the evidence being kind of flimsy.
Interesting. If a reporter, let's say of equal caliber and notoriety as yourself, but not on the national stage, started a series of articles on one or more 9/11 conspiracy theories, what do you think would happen?
I guess it depends on the angle. If you're saying a reporter like me who wants to explore the idea that this was an inside job, that the Bush administration did it or the Israelis did it or something, I think you'd have a hard time convincing your editor to okay that. It'd be, unless you had a lot better evidence than what I've seen so far, it would be hard to pitch that story and get it on the air. And it's not a giant conspiracy. There's no government authority telling us you can't report on that kind of stuff. It would just be on the basis of respect for the profession. I mean, unless you have some pretty good evidence to go on, you would invite the scorn not only of your professional journalism colleagues, but of the audience. I think the audience would react pretty poorly to if you were to present some of these radical theories with any kind of an inch of credibility, because most of them don't stand up to scrutiny, at least as far as I know. I should tell you, Joe, I am not an expert on this. I do cover conspiracies for the simple reason that they do happen in life. I've covered the UFO field and things of that sort, the cover-up. And, there are things that happen involving our government where there are cover-ups, there are conspiracies to confuse the public. I just don't happen to think that this 9/11 thing is one of them.
Well, I'm not trying to pin you down on anything specific, unless you want to talk specifics, but in the broad spectrum of 9/11 conspiracy theories that you've seen that originate on the internet, are there any that have any merit?
The one that always interested me was Building 7, why that building collapsed. And I've never, until recently, I hadn't seen an explanation that really worked. And again, I'm not an expert. I've sort of assiduously avoided this whole quagmire for reasons that we can go into later. But Building 7, why that collapsed was always a mystery to me. And now I've seen some explanations from physics professors about why that building could go down and why it went down in the manner it did. And the explanation works for me. The other angle I thought that was interesting was the Israelis, whether the Israelis might have been behind something like that because, they would want to get us dragged into a Middle East war for their own reasons. And that was an intriguing angle. I don't put it past our government to engage in conspiracies. I wouldn't put it past the Israelis to engage in conspiracies because both governments do that kind of stuff all the time. But something like this, the idea that George W. Bush would be involved in it, that he would okay the murder of 3,000 or so American citizens just to get us involved in a war, always seemed kind of thin to me because, he was already planning to get us into war. They didn't need something as dramatic as this. They were already headed down that path. The fact that the Iraqis had nothing to do with this attack is evidence, I would suggest, of the fact that they didn't need a 9/11 kind of event to get us into war. Iraq had nothing to do with it, and still we invaded them. It seemed to suggest to me that they were going in that direction anyway. The Israelis, who have spies throughout our government, surely would have known that we were already planning to invade Iraq and carve it up and divvy it up among the oil companies. So it just seems to me that some of those conspiracy theories that are so popular now just don't hold water.
Well, that's a very good response. In a perfect world, what would need to happen or change in order for someone like yourself to feel compelled to throw serious investigative effort into one or more 9/11 conspiracy theories?
Well, one thing that could happen is if a whistleblower who was involved in planting thermite in the buildings or something came forward and said, "I'm the guy who did it. I was part of the team," and him pass a polygraph, and there'll be other supporting information. That would be one. Two would be a trail of documents. A conspiracy of this size, this magnitude, would have to have a heck of a lot of people involved in planning it. There would be some kind of a paper trail. And that would be something that an investigative journalist could dig their teeth into. Short of that, it's a whole lot of speculation by people who I think are doing a disservice. They're doing a disservice to our country in several ways. They are stirring the pot, keeping people worried about the future, questioning their own government. Now, look, there's lots of reasons to question the government, but this I don't think is one of them. So there are a couple of things that could happen. They haven't happened. The evidence, in my opinion, is flimsy. And again, I am not an expert on this. I haven't spent a lot of time digging into it. So I'm sure there are people much more knowledgeable than me. But what I have read online, the physics papers I have read, it seemed more plausible than the conspiracy theories. I'm concerned about the interest, the intense public interest in conspiracy theories that are promoted by people who want to sell a book or sell a TV show or get people to go to their website. It does a great disservice in that I think there really are conspiracies. And when you throw out these crazy theories that have very little support behind them, you tend to give cover to those people who really do engage in conspiracies. in that the public in general will not pay attention when you cry wolf the next time around.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Is there anything else that you would like to add about this topic?
You know, the great tragedy for me, I think, is the loss of civil liberties. You know, the people who did this were brought to justice to a large extent. Bin Laden, anyway. There are probably still some of them out there who are involved who have not been brought to justice, but I think they will be eventually. But I remember on that day interviewing Senator Richard Bryan, the senator from Nevada, and asking him about the threat to civil liberties. I said, Senator, aren't you worried that maybe we'll overreact and that Americans would be willing to give away some of their civil liberties in exchange for better security? He said, no, don't worry about that. We've got the Bill of Rights. There's nothing you have to worry about. And of course, we know that that is not true, that Americans welcomed the Patriot Act. It was passed overwhelmingly. We gave away so many of our civil liberties, so many of our privacy rights, gave it away on a silver platter. And now we're just now realizing how terrible, what a terrible price we're paying for that. I mean, the surveillance state that has been installed now, there's a conspiracy for you, because that's real and it's never going to go away. We're never going to go backwards from this. They now watch it, look at every email. They download every phone call. They track every call that's made. Every communication that we have, electronically anyway, is all sucked into some gigantic database. That's the real cost of 9/11, and there's no going back from it.
Wow, George. Well, thank you so much for all your answering my questions and taking the time out of your day to join us here on the show.
Sure, Joe. Good. I like your stuff.
Thank you. I like your stuff, too. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again.
All right, see you.
George agrees. It's important to question our government and demand accountability when necessary. Because when Congress spends more time and money investigating steroid use in baseball than they did for the attacks on 9/11, something is seriously wrong. And you, 9/11 conspiracy people online, accept when evidence disproves your theories and find better evidence. This shit's too important. The government's investigation into 9/11 and internet conspiracy theorists, you both get extreme bullshit. That's all for now. We'll see you next week. Our hearts go out to all those families who lost loved ones 13 years ago today.
I can't even get my tow truck. I had to leave it. Copy that, Dad?
The roof, something caved in. It's a collapse. I need some water.
Where you at?
I was on the 81st floor.
Tell me what you saw and heard.
I had 40 people in there, just an explosion. There's a light flash out my window. My whole doorway to the entrance of my office blew open. My office was freaking out. And I just told them to calm down and get to the center of the office. Everybody was fine on my floor, and we just started heading down the stairs. I heard people were trapped in the bathroom. I ran to the bathroom. It was just blown out. I asked if anybody was in there. People weren't in there. So I started going down the steps. I heard people shouting. I stopped at like 68, and there's a woman in a wheelchair, and I got her in the strap wheelchair and just carried her down the steps and Carried her down 68 floors, man. And then we got lost on the 5th floor. It was chaos. It was just,
What do you work for?
Network Plus communications company out of
See if I can
Randolph,
How
Mass.
do you spell it?
Mike Benfanti, B-E-N-F-A-N-T-E.
Thank you, Mike.
It's chaos, man.
It collapsed. The top floors collapsed down. I saw it blow and then ran like hell. Thank God. I'm 69, but I can still run. There's got to be firemen trapped back there, though.
What'd you see?
Everything. I saw chaos. It's just chaos out here. It really is. So the Twin Towers fall. It's amazing. It's crazy. I can't believe this shit is happening. I really can't. It's nightmares. Armageddon right here. That's it.
What's your name and how you spell it?
Peter Rodriguez. R-O-D-R-I-G-U-E-Z.
Where do you work?
Embassy, the hotel, Embassy Suite.
How's the hotel?
Oh man, I can't even see it right now. Hopefully it looks like we're gonna have, the engineers are gonna have a lot of work to do. A lot of work, and hopefully all those families are all right. Oh my God, this is crazy. I'm distraught right now, sorry. I can't talk, this is crazy. Oh, this is insane.
When we get you into Stuyvesant High School, it's only a block away.
I'm at the corner of West.
Why don't you come with us too? All right? This ain't no place to be now, pal. You all want to come?